Welcome to another episode of Me, My Wife, and Sports. I'm your host, Fitz, with my lovely co-host, Darcy.
Hello.
Dang.
Lord of boom.
Fix the mic before we start. All right. Here we are. See, she threw me off with grabbing her mic. But today's topic, we're talking about, do athletes really need a sports agent to be a professional athlete? Because, those sports agents, they make a lot of money. And they get anywhere, like, for example, for basketball, and I think the NFL, well, let me go with the NFL. The sports agents aren't permitted to receive more than 3%, whereas in the NBA, not more than 4% of their clients' playing contract. So,
but what about on endorsements?
See, and that's what I was going to say, because the endorsements is a whole separate
different game.
Yep, they're getting a percentage of that stuff too.
20 to 25%.
Exactly. So sports agents are making a great deal of money. So I don't blame those athletes who decide to take their career into their own hands, because that's money they can save. Because right now, the biggest sports agent or company out there is Scott Boras. He's a sports agent who owns a company.
Oh, okay.
And his has been on part of Forbes,
So he owns a sport agency company.
Yeah, it's called the Boras Corporation.
Okay, so he has a lot of athletes under him.
Right. And most of his athletes are in Major League Baseball.
Oh,
but
okay.
He's recognized by Forbes as the most powerful sports agent in the world. And,
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
So I guess if you get with him, you're doing good. But before we continue down that road, I just want to get your quick thoughts on the draft, NFL draft that took place a few weeks ago.
It was a draft. I mean,
right. Were you happy where everything ended up?
Yeah,
and how
I was surprised that Shador went in the 5th round. Okay, it's out there. Wow. Happy for. Okay, let me go to my list here.
All right, go to your list.
No surprise that Cam Ward, first pick. Happy for Cam.
Oh, yeah.
Great kid. Great young man. He's not a kid. Great young man. He was very articulate. His outfit was very conservative, very calm. He said he did that intentionally.
Well, a lot of those athletes were actually dressed
very nicely.
Yeah,
they were.
It wasn't like in the past where it was just like outrageous.
Where they came out looking like Cam Newton. It was very well done. Yeah. Now, so then what happens? A trade happens, and Jacksonville trades up to number 2
right.
from number 5, and they take Travis.
Right.
So why Cleveland did that, nobody knows. But hey, good for Jacksonville, because basically what has been said is that Jacksonville just got 2 number 1 draft picks, or 2 number 2s,
right.
or 2 top draft picks.
There you go.
In Travis Hunter, because you got a cornerback and a wide receiver.
You're right. And the good part about that, most corners that I see, and I'm not an expert in football or any other sport, I play basketball at the collegiate level, but most cornerbacks that I see at the NFL level can't catch a dang interception. They got stone hands. But so having an actual wide receiver playing cornerback.
Yeah. That's going to be,
that's a game changer. He's actually going to be like Deion, because Deion.
He's going to be more like Deion than any of Deion's kids.
Right.
Okay, I said that too, and Deion know I love him and his kids. But you know what? Go on and adopt Travis and make him a Sanders, because he looked more like a Sanders than the other ones.
I totally agree.
But yeah, so that was number 2. That was a shocker to everybody, because everybody thought Cleveland was going to take Travis. Like, why they made that trade, nobody knows.
Yeah.
And so that was a surprise. And the trade was the surprise. Travis going number 2 was not a surprise. Everybody was happy about that. Then we had like a bunch of defensive tackles.
Well, they had to build those lines back up because
oh my God.
I look at Dallas as an example because, since we're big Dallas Cowboy fans, that our line was old. Our offensive line was old.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to replenish.
Man, they were really old.
You just don't replenish the offensive or defensive line as regularly as you do some of the other key
Jerry
positions.
wore them boys out.
He got all the tread off the tire.
I hope he paid him well because he got every little bit out of them.
I know that's right.
And we being Dallas at number 12 picked Tyler Booker, who is a guard.
Yes.
Great guard out of Alabama.
We got to protect freaking
Dak. Hell, he can't,
he can't even protect himself.
He touched the ball and he done broke a thumb. So hell, he's so soft.
And I'm not a big fan of Dak. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I'm just not a big fan of Dak.
I'm getting tired of him too.
I don't think he's worth the money he's being paid.
Definitely not worth the money. But in Tyler Booker, we got a guard from Alabama who allowed no sacks on the quarterback.
Right.
I mean, it is college, but that's still an awesome record.
No, that's good for even college.
I mean, I think, that's something good that...
hopefully it could transition into the professional.
Pros, yeah.
Because, he's going to have a learning curve more than likely because you got other people he's going to be playing against, other men who's been around in the league.
Right.
So they know little tricks here and there.
Exactly.
And they might just have a little bit more oomph than him.
Right. And I know Micah was very happy with that pick as well. So,
matter of fact, did Mike ever get his deal?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I tried.
Because I think he was looking for $200 million, which between him, CeeDee Lamb, and Dak,
that's a whole lot of money.
No more money to pay the rest of the team. At least the salary cap is busted.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a weak draft. It was another weak draft class, I think.
Well, it's coming here to the D.C. in 2027.
Oh, is it?
It is.
I did not know that.
They're going to have it on the
mall?
On the mall.
Oh, my God.
Yep. 2027. Matter of fact, Trump and
up now.
the commissioner for the NFL made the announcement together, I think, a few days ago.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, see, I don't watch the news anymore, so I wouldn't have heard that.
Well, it should have came across the sports news.
I'm surprised I didn't see it on the NFL channel because I do watch that. Yeah. But no, I didn't know that. Well, that's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's outside. They're going to do it outside in April. In D.C. It's going to be raining. Don't come, y'all. Don't come. It's going to be raining. I'm telling you.
No, everybody comes to D.C. They need the money.
It's going to be a washout. That's crazy. I thought you was going to say they're going to do it in the Verizon Center. Why wouldn't they do it in the Verizon Center?
That might be plan B. You
could do it in the Verizon Center. Now. You could do it in the convention center.
But I don't know.
They got all these great indoor venues. Okay, this ain't what we're supposed to be talking about.
I know. But I don't know because even in Green Bay, it rained and it was cold. And people, they had, over 600,000 people there, I believe it was?
I don't know.
I think it was because they said when they did it in Detroit, it was 800,000.
So the whole thing, this means the whole thing is going to be outside. So where are the players? They're going to have...
I'm sure they're going to have some kind of tent set up, overhang or something.
Oh, my God.
Build a stage, just like if it was doing a concert outside.
2027.
Yeah.
What a circus.
I'll be here because I don't like crowds like that.
Yeah, I'll be watching it on TV.
But just to know it's close by.
Yeah, that is.
That's pretty cool because who knows?
We can get some shirts or something.
I might go to a restaurant or something and bump into one of the players.
Yeah, they might be hanging out around town during that time. But
so it'll be interesting.
Other than that, though, there were no surprises to me in the draft. I learned more about the draft process and a few things going on behind the scenes that I didn't know about the draft. More of that kind of thing. Than actually paying attention to the draft itself. So that's all I got on the draft,
Okay.
Now it's going to be, what are these guys going to do? None of these names strike me as anybody I'm going hard for in fantasy.
It's always a sleeper.
In fantasy picks.
It's always a sleeper.
We'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out.
I'm glad you brought up the fantasy piece before we get to the main topic. I just want to let our listeners know that Darcy, and I think I've mentioned it before, has been the commissioner of our fantasy league for about 17 years. And we pretty much kept the same folks. Some folks left and came back, but it's real exclusive. Trust me, you can't get in unless somebody either die or just drop out.
Right.
It's sort of like getting a season ticket to the Steelers or one of the other big franchises that are known to go to the Super Bowl and so forth. But we had a gathering of, this is the first time out of the 17 years,
Right.
we were able to get majority of the league players to come and celebrate our commissioner.
It was awesome.
And maybe we'll post on our page some pictures of not only the group, but our commissioner who had a special shirt on that represented the league. So
yeah, it was great. It was great to have my league
time
there. I got a great crew. So
yes, you did.
I appreciate it.
Right. All right.
Sports agency.
Sports agent.
Back to sports agency.
Do athletes really need a sports agent? And it's funny because I look at...
There are two sides to that argument.
Of course, because that takes up a lot of time too as a sports agent. I mean, you're working weekends, you're brokering deals, not only contract deals, but we're talking endorsements and other things of that nature. Now, being an athlete, you might have an agent to help you with your endorsements, but when you're dealing with your main football contract or basketball contract and you're doing it yourself, you're saving that 3 to 4%. That's a whole lot of money when you talk about a contract worth, say, $200 million or $50 million, hell, $10 million.
Right.
So that's a lot of pennies because, everybody's got to get their cut. Uncle Sam go get his cut. Your sports agent go get his cut. The league going to get their cut because you got to pay your dues no matter what you do. But one of the players that caught my eye and I respect and I give him kudos was Lamar Jackson. He brokered his deal at a time where it was in flux, whether he was good enough to get the money he was requesting. And I think they made the playoffs and he did well in the playoffs. Of course, they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but he did well, had some good numbers and so forth. So he kept everything himself. He didn't need a sports agent or he didn't have one.
But now, we right here in Maryland, I wonder, I have never seen Lamar in any endorsements.
Baltimore might get more.
But they would be local.
Yeah, local.
But he's not in any, is he in any national? Let me ask it as a question. Is he in any national commercials?
I do not know.
I want to say that there was one, but I don't remember. I can't remember. Because, one of the pros to having a sports agent is the access that you get.
Right.
And if you get with the right agent, and they have the right access, then it should be financially beneficial for both parties.
Of course. Well, that sport agent is going to work hard because he doesn't get paid if you don't get paid.
Exactly. So that would be part of why you would want a sports agent. But then if you don't have one and you decide that you want to be your own agent, yeah, you get to keep all the money.
Yeah.
But you also have to do all the work.
Well, and that's why some of these athletes, I'm noticing doing a research I was doing, some of these athletes, because it's about 17, well, let me put it this way. In 2023, there were about 17 NFL players who represented themselves, but some of them had sports agents to handle their endorsement deals. So
they got them for specific purposes.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Because I think early on, back in the days when I was a youngster, I think the sports agent did everything and they weren't required to have certain credentials. And now I believe you even mentioned it, that they have to have certain credentials, go take classes and other things so they can represent their client.
Oh, well. Yeah. I think whatever sports field you're in, be it the NFL, NBA, soccer, whatever, they set the requirements for their sports agents.
Gotcha.
And you have to meet those requirements in order to be an agent in that
Because it's like
field.
an exam and everything.
Oh,
involved,
it's serious. Like for the NFL, like you have to be either a lawyer or have a law degree or have had.
You couldn't be just like a business major.
You would have to have some kind of contracting experience and background.
Like you could be one because you have a fraud background.
I was going to, I was approved to sit for the NFL sports agent test.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Based on just having my background.
Oh, but to even take the test, you got to give them.
You got to fill out an application, submit the application, get approved. But the test was like $1,500.
Whoa! And
I was like, I don't know nobody that want to be in the NFL bad enough to pay. So it was just something I was looking into doing just out of curiosity because I like sports, and I thought,
if you fail the test,
gonna be my hustle, right?
Right.
And so I had a few friends at that time that they had kids that was talking about football, and I like to learn about things so that I can speak intelligently on them. So I had bought a couple of books and I had read the books. And then one of my friends, the mother of the little boy, we were talking about, okay, let's do this together. And I was like, okay, well, I think she was counting more on me to do it because I had the background, And so, but I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then I was like, $1,500 just to take the test. And then what if I don't? And
that's why my question was, if you fail, do you get to retake it at a discount price or you got to pay another $1,500?
You know what? I'm going to tell you honestly, I don't know. Because after I got the application, I had the application. And I saw that $1,500. I probably still got the application upstairs somewhere because it didn't go no further. And that was 15 years ago. So I don't even know what it is like now. But just to get into that arena, it's real. Like you ain't walking off the street and saying, you a sports agent and being taken seriously.
Because I think a lot of people did that way back in the day.
Yeah.
And
they didn't know nothing about reading contracts or signing contracts or anything. And if you're looking at, I'm talking about government contracts, but you're looking at sports contracts, you got to really sit down with that thing.
Exactly. And I think too, and I could be wrong, but I thought I read somewhere that even though Lamar represented himself, I think he had a lawyer review the contract.
I bet he did.
And the lawyer said it was a good.
Exactly.
So you pay one fee, review the contract.
So did he really save money? Because you still had to pay the lawyer to review it. Maybe not. You ain't had to pay him 3%.
You ain't paid 3 to 4%.
3 to 5%. So maybe it was
saved a whole lot of money.
Maybe it was a little bit cheaper.
It might have been just like, I review your contract for $5,000.
Yeah. It probably was a little bit cheaper, but to me, I think it's better to have an agent based on what you want to do. Yeah. Like if you get a good contract, then maybe you don't need an agent. If you can get a good contract, maybe you don't need an agent because maybe you don't need all the other stuff.
Right.
But if you want to be in commercials and movies and all this other, if you want to broaden your horizon beyond sports, then absolutely you're going to need an agent. But and an agent with access to those things and some negotiating skills.
Right. Because these owners been in the negotiation business forever. Maybe not so much in the sports, but how they built their business,
They're businessmen.
Yeah, exactly. And if they feel they can get you at a cheap price,
they're making business decisions. They're not making emotional decisions. Nope. They're not making decisions based on the fan base because God knows if they was, Jerry would have made a whole bunch of different ones.
And they don't care about your needs, whether you supporting 10 kids or 2 families.
And that's the quarterback. They look at, Flutie. We don't care if you got 20 kids.
Right.
That was Doug Flutie. Remember, he had a whole bunch of kids.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Who was the other quarterback out of San Diego? Who's the old San Diego quarterback? He had been there for a long time.
No, Doug Flutie has that many kids?
He got a bunch of kids.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Doug Flutie got a bunch of kids.
Oh, wow.
If it was Doug got a bunch of kids.
Okay. Huh.
So, they making business decisions. And based on what you want to do as a player, that's what you need. But if you don't, and you have good time management skills, because if you don't get an agent, now you got to be the CEO, the CFO, and the COO.
And
you are all of that.
And they're going to be calling you.
Because you're doing everything. You got to find the money.
Right.
You got to make the money. And then you got to, manage the money.
Exactly.
And you're doing all of that yourself.
And
for some players, that's too much.
And keeping an account, depending on what sport you're playing and what position, you got to study. I mean,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
These quarterbacks have a binder where they got to know plays. They're spending time in the film room and, you know, all those things to hone their skills.
Right.
Because even though you have a contract, yeah, if they cut you, they got to pay you. But you're out of a job.
Right.
You know, and is it the money or do you want to play that sport and win a Super Bowl, win an NBA championship, or whatever the case may be, you know, and the money is just an extra added bonus. But it's a job like anything else.
Yeah, it is a job. But, you know, when you're talking about, you know, as an athlete, should I have a sports agent? You got to look at the pros and the cons of it, both sides of it. And
that's why I was getting ready to ask you, why don't you take the con part and I'll take the pro part?
Well, the con part, that's easy because just off the top of my head, you know, you got the cost. We already talked about that. One problem is suitability, and that's finding a good match with an agent because you guys got to get along. Can't be fighting with your agent.
True.
That's not going to work. So you have to spend some time to find the right match for that particular individual. And then once you do that, you got to be sure that your values align with your sports agent, that they understand what your goals are. And sometimes the sports agent's goal is to just make money.
True.
And he don't care that you want to be in TV.
And the fact that he's
just trying to get you the biggest contract on the field. Like you might have said, you know, I don't want to play but a couple more years, and he didn't already put a down payment on a yacht. So you got to play more than a couple more years because we got to make this yacht payment.
And he's probably got, or she, the sports agent, probably has several clients. So if you
find a good one, hopefully.
Yeah, is he or she really devoting enough time to you?
Exactly.
You know, or Lamar Jackson has your sports agent and you're a second stringer. Who you think going to get the phone call first? You know, I mean, who he's going to pick up?
You're competing with other athletes.
Correct.
In that particular agency. So that's part of finding a good agent that you're compatible with and that you trust.
Exactly.
And when does that start? Like, oh my God. Like, when does that start? Like,
and
are they in colleges? Like, how do athletes know where to go to find sports agents? Or is it one of these things where they say, oh, don't worry about it. A good sports agent will find you. Well, I ain't waiting for the ambulance chasers.
Right.
You don't want those people that are hanging out at the combine stalking people.
Right. Hopefully some of the top prospects in whatever sport it might be is getting conversation with other players who have gone on, say from Alabama. They send players to the pros nonstop. And who knows if one of the sports agents who's representing somebody in the NFL tells, hey, I want this guy. He went to your school. Why don't you reach out to him? And
they're saying that to other athletes.
Right.
Okay. So athletes who have an agent are now reaching back.
Correct.
And saying, come and go with my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still gotta know that that's going to be a good fit for you because what works for that person might not work for you.
Exactly.
And then you might be in a situation where you still got to go out and find your own.
Right. Well, it is funny because when I was playing basketball in college, one of the guys I played with, he graduated and went and played overseas. And he had his guy reach out to me and asked that I want to come over and play. You know, he can represent me. And I told him I wasn't interested because, you know, it wasn't fun anymore. And it served its purpose. It got me an education and I went into the workforce after that. So there are ways for them to get connected to a good, reputable sports agent. And I'm sure the NFL, NBA, and all them provides a package of these are.
Yeah, but you know what? It's starting earlier now because now you got these kids coming out of high school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, with the NIL.
With the NIL.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Cooper Flagg. Yep. He done signed all these contracts before he played one game.
Right.
At freaking Duke.
Right.
And he's a freshman, right?
He's a sophomore going into this next year, but yes, he's a freshman.
He was a freshman.
He was a freshman.
So when did they hit him? Like, who
Right.
negotiated that one commercial where he's walking through with the old people playing bingo?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he did that as a freshman.
Right.
So that had to happen when he was in high school.
Well,
Early on in his...
I'm sure it probably, and I don't know the rules, but I'm sure they couldn't actually completely talk to him and broker things while he was still in high school. But I think we mentioned in one of our episodes, once they sign
a
that
letter
letter
of intent.
Gloves are off.
Right,
So,
right.
So,
But what I'm saying is, when did he get an agent? Did he find an agent? Did an agent find him?
probably after he signed the letter of intent, know.
Then you start getting random emails
More than likely.
and calls and people. So it's probably a lot of, for lack of a better term, ambulance chasers
Well,
in the sports agency arena that are just sitting out there waiting, watching, trying to figure out who's going to be the next Cooper Flagg, who's going to be the next Travis Hunter.
Right.
And they're starting to talk to those kids.
Right. Well, it's no different than when we started doing this podcast and we trademarked Me, My Wife, and Sports.
Now everybody want to get in on.
We got all these emails saying, I'm a lawyer, I can do this for you.
Right.
But you did it all for us.
Right.
So we didn't need that. We saved money. So, no, I get it.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is. But, the pros to having a sports agent is basically now you can focus on your craft and have a better work-life balance. Whereas if you were your own agent, work-life balance would suck, I would think.
Yeah, because you're doing everything. There is no
24/7.
There is no balance.
No day off, no vacation.
Or you decide, I just want to play football and I'm not worried about endorsements and I'm not worried about that. We always talk about Tom Brady when he was at New England. Never saw him on one commercial.
Right.
I think that was a part of the contract in New England.
I think you mentioned that, that
they couldn't do any of that.
Yeah. And you're right, because all them Super Bowls, I never saw them in a national commercial.
I don't think I ever saw Tom Brady say, I'm going to Disneyland.
The only commercial I might have saw, maybe I'm thinking of
after he
did
retired.
I think he did that one with not Dak Prescott, Tony Romo.
He did a bunch after he retired.
Okay. Well, maybe it's Tony Romo I'm thinking of.
Tony.
He was doing that beer commercial.
But that was after he retired.
After he retired, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, it all depends on what the individual athlete's goals are. And I think that is in any sport.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your sport is. You have to decide what your goals are. And once you know what your goals are, then you approach it from that. Well, the
good thing, I think, which is another pro of having a sports agent, especially if it's a large company, you're going to have your sports agent. You have people who are your commercial manager who's focused on finding brand sponsorships for you. Then you're going to have your financial manager who handles your accounts as well as the contracts and so forth. And then administrative support. Then athlete relations coordinator. So if you have some bad press, you got people who can deflect that. Like, who was it when Terrell Pryor was here visiting us? You were talking to...
I think that was his agent.
His agent. Yeah, because I think it was his PR person.
No, it was his PR person. Yeah, that's what it was. It was his PR person.
So there's a lot of people involved in making the whole person.
Yeah, and there's a PR person. There's the actual agent. There's a marketing person.
Right.
You get your
basically what I just said, the commercial manager, which is the marketing person, the financial manager.
Right.
And administrative support who does all the other little things.
Yes. They always talk about Jalen Hurts, his team, because it's all women.
Right.
Which shout out to Jalen for, and he know who get the job done.
Well, and I like LeBron.
And he an Eagle fan.
I like LeBron's team because he brought one of his childhood buddy up with him who, LeBron pretty much put him on the map, but he's expanded from what I understand in his clientele.
Right, yeah.
So, those are the good things, the good news story. But to this day, I still don't understand how some of these athletes make millions and they go bankrupt, I get it.
I do.
Any investment is risky, but you can't help everybody. You know, some of these guys try to bring the whole neighborhood with them.
I mean, yeah, but yeah, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, right.
Stay tuned for that one.
All right. Looks like our time is winding down, but
we could do a part 2 on that.
Yes, we can, because it's just so much involved and so many unsavory characters out there that would take advantage of you as a person, especially, you come from a small school, you make it to the professional ranks, whether it's tennis, whatever
it is, whatever sport.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't have a clue and you're relying on this person to help you make sound, good decisions.
Right.
And all they're worried about is how much flesh I can get before I toss you.
Right. That commission.
Yeah. Yeah. And
you don't want somebody that's just looking at you and seeing a check.
Right. Because
it's got to be.
Everybody's going to have an expiration date when you're playing sports. Yeah. Depending on the sport.
And depending on the sport.
Some are sooner than others.
Some have a longer shelf life than others.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Like you said, we can keep going on and on about this, but we got to end the show. It's only a 30-minute show.
It's only a 30-minute show.
But before we go, I'm always doing my little sports fact. Right. And today, I'm going to do one on...
Today's little known sports fact is...
With the history spanning back to 1877, Labatt Park in London, Ontario, is the oldest baseball field still in continuous operation.
In London. London, Ontario. London, Ontario.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes. It's the oldest baseball field still in continuous operation.
So all you baseball fans that want to visit every state baseball stadium, put that one on your
I don't know if they still play in it.
You said it was the long...
Spanning back to 1877. It still might be standing, and I don't know if professional sports are playing
what they doing in it?
I don't know.
It's just there.
They could be playing sports in it,
well,
but I don't know if the professionals are still playing in it.
Well, y'all still go visit it.
Yeah.
Take a picture out in front
and
of it.
And that's Labatt Park in London, Ontario. Labatt.
L-A-B-A-T.
Like the beer.
Oh, I don't know the beer.
Yes. All right. Any final thoughts?
It was a good show.
It was.
I mean, it's a lot of work to be done, a lot of research to be done. If you're in the market for a sports agent, or if you have a kid playing sports and they getting ready to sign NIL deals, or even have the possibility of getting one, start looking into it. Do your homework. Do your homework.
Don't rely on the professionals to have all the answers and give you the answers, which might not be the correct answers. So do your own due diligence.
Exactly.
And verify.
Right.
So.
In God we trust, all others we verify.
That's it. And if you got questions, concerns, or comments, you can reach us at memywifeandsports@yahoo.com. memywifeandsports@yahoo.com. If you want to listen to our podcast, or even drop us a comment, or listen to various episodes, you can go to memywifeandsports.buzzsprout.com.
Yes.
All right. Darcy, any parting words?
No parting words. Good discussion. Everybody have a great day. And as always, in parting, remember you are a reflection of your mate.